So if you take a look at Phoenix's average points per possession in transition versus in the half court, Phoenix averages 1.2 points per possession in transition, which means at the very least, if they're in the fast break, if they're in transition, at the very least, they are getting to the free throw line and hitting one free throw. In the half court offense, Phoenix over the past couple of games has been averaging less than a point per game in the half court. They're not even getting to the free throw line on average on these possessions. And so when I think about when I see Alyssa Thomas at her best, usually when I think about when I see Phoenix's offense at their best, the answer to this question, how can AT counter Vegas in their defense? For me, it's Alyssa Thomas just has to get back to playing better defense, forcing steals, forcing turnovers, and getting this offense in transition, because that's when their offense is at their best. That's what the numbers tell me. The other thing too, and I know you talk about this a lot in the Lynx and Liberty series, and it was something that you were keeping an eye on leading into this series. It's the inverted screen that we kept seeing Phoenix go back to over and over and over again for Alyssa Thomas. And I had mentioned too that one thing I noticed a little bit in game one, but especially in game two when I went to go watch it back, is it seemed like a lot more Vegas was a lot more intentional with they didn't run a lot of zone in game two. When they did run zone, even when they didn't, they were very intentional about, like, if Asia was the one on Alyssa Thomas when she's bringing the ball before they're doing this in their screen, they would bring, let's say, Jackie Young up, for example, and they would almost and Jackie Young would almost kind of do to Asia what you see a lot of like running backs do in the NFL. But if she would just take her hand and just put her hand right on Asia's lower back and just wait to see where Alyssa Thomas was going to go. And if Alyssa Thomas was, let's say, going to the left of the screen and Asia couldn't get there, Jackie would switch. Yeah. And if not, Asia would. And you see that a lot with running.
And they would meet her there. Like Jewel Lloyd did it a couple times too. Like they meet her at the point of the screen as opposed to
exactly
as opposed to waiting for her to come to them.
And what I find to be most interesting about that is, as we all know, if you don't know, Alyssa Thomas doesn't have any labrums. She plays with 2 torn labrums, and the reason why is because she tore her left labrum first, I think, and then she ended up tearing her right labrum, and she never wanted to take the time off to get the labrum surgery. So she's been playing with 2 torn labrums. So if you ever watch the Phoenix Mercury play basketball, that push shot that Alyssa Thomas does is because she has no labrums, the things that make your shoulders do all that. She doesn't have them. Alyssa Thomas isn't a threat from the perimeter. So the way that the Aces are able to guard this inverted screen, it's because they know, unlike a player like Kelsey Mitchell, who they saw torch them several times over the course of that last series against Indiana before her body literally gave out on her, they don't have to worry about Alyssa Thomas staying on the perimeter and shooting a 3 the way they did with Kelsey Mitchell, because that's not in her game. And so the way that they've been able to neutralize that inverted screen, it almost kind of made me think anyway, well, where else can Alyssa Thomas get her points? Where else can Alyssa Thomas be impactful and push the pace? And that has to come from the transition, because they're doing such a good job. They're doing such a good job of guarding that inverted screen. They're doing such a good job of tracking the ball and staying on the ball at all times, forcing the Phoenix into bad shots, late shots in the shot clock, or just straight up shot clock violations, where like either Alyssa Thomas is getting the ball in transition and getting her shots open in the fast break, or this offense isn't really as fluid as we're used to them seeing. And so it's a really weird thing to say in order for AT to counter the way they're defending the screen is to get like, that's really what, like, she just has to force turnovers. She's got to get them running, because Kai Copper can hit shots in transition. Satu can hit shots in transition. Nicole McConaughey can do it. It's like they have a team that is designed and built to do so. They have to get back to doing that. And unfortunately for Phoenix on the defensive side of the ball, they haven't been forcing Vegas into those situations where they're not able to get back on defense. That, I think, is part of what could be part of the answer to the Mercury winning tomorrow.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a big thing missing. And that's a big difference between how we saw them be effective against New York and Minnesota. They're not getting out in transition and running on Vegas yet, like they've been able to do. Phoenix, ironically, is doing exactly what the Lynx did in the last series, taking ill-advised shots and not being aggressive on defense is not there. I actually look at the play of Sammy Whitcomb as really being a detriment to Alyssa Thomas. I felt like Sammy Whitcomb played off Alyssa Thomas so well in that Minnesota series with her quick trigger and her shot making, and even just her savvy. She played really well in that Minnesota series for Phoenix. And again, with her outside shooting ability as a guard, and not just as an outside shooter, because like you said, Ka can hit shots, Satu can hit shots, but the way Sammy Whitcomb plays as like a guard, one of those guards that kind of like keeps moving, you know what I mean? Like she creates a lot of motion, and in the 2-player game with AT, it felt like they just had a lot of symmetry there. Again, mainly because Sammy can space off of her, and when they try to play that inverted screen action, Sammy can kind of slip out of it, fade out to the 3-point line, and get herself a look. They got so many looks between the two of them in the Minnesota and the New York series, honestly. And Sammy Whitcomb has not done a thing for Phoenix in the first 2 games. Nothing. The shot hasn't been falling. I feel like Okoa Makani is a better, like, just athletically, I think she's just a better fit for Phoenix in this matchup against Vegas and their guards. But man, Sammy Whitcomb, for what she was giving them in those previous series versus what she's given them in these first 2 games, it's not even close. Like, Phoenix doesn't have a chance. Again, Phoenix has some real issues here. Say they have a Sammy Whitcomb problem. I wouldn't call it an Alyssa Thomas problem, but I think the way other players are playing, it's time to start. Satu has kind of been on her hot and cold thing. Now she's got the ankle thing. We'll see how that looks with her, right? We agree Kali has been good, but the Phoenix has like fallen into. I mean, game 2 was kind of a mess offensively, bro. Those possessions were like they were bad.
They were dreadful.
They've got bad. They got back into like that weird, funky shot selection, one pass and shot, dribble up and shot. Like it's
Satu just dribbling up on the right and just taking the first look she sees.
Yeah. And unfortunately, DeWanna Bonner has fluctuated really all playoffs. And I hate to say this about DeWanna. She's an all-time great, but honestly, she has fluctuated from looking washed to looking like, oh, okay, she's still here. She can hoop. She can contribute. Because like she'll hit a couple shots, but then she'll airball a couple. And then I've told you my big thing, like with Phoenix and the way they're constructed, they want to play those small lineups. DeWanna Bonner is not, her length helps in terms of size, and that's been a big part of what they do and why they can play small. But at her age and with her frame, she's not the type of versatile inside outside presence, particularly on defense, on offense and defense, but especially on defense, where she can't help out AT on that Asia matchup. She can't switch off on Asia. It's food every time. Heck, Dana Evans has been going at DeWanna Bonner.
Dude,
like
Chelsea
she's
Gray
food.
was going at DeWanna
Man,
Bonner. Like everybody
DeWanna Bonner has fluctuated from liability, like washed liability, and then, next few plays, like she could hit a shot. So I'm like, I feel like they kind of have to live with it. But man, Phoenix has that bench that you said was the best in the league at one point. It ain't looking like it anymore. Not even, but they're getting nothing from their bench so far. So again, one of those things where you figure might improve from playing at home. But I feel like the AT question, as far as how she can counter Vegas, she needs her teammates. She thrives off of her teammates hitting shots and making plays for them. So if DeWanna's not hitting, and not only if they're not hitting, but if it's not in the flow of like actions involving AT, it kind of just takes away from her momentum, because that's what gets them going.
So you expect AT to be good at guarding everyone and not other? No, I didn't say that. What I'm saying is Alyssa Thomas. Think about the New York Liberty series, right? Think back to the Minnesota Lynx series, even when Alyssa Thomas was being aggressive as an on-ball defender, regardless of who her matchup was at any point in time. When she was being aggressive as an on-ball defender, and she was forcing turnovers, whether it was errant passes, whether it was live ball turnovers, and getting those into transition, that's when we saw the confidence of this Phoenix Mercury team excel. I am not at all suggesting that Alyssa Thomas switch on to all 5 members of the Las Vegas Aces every single defensive possession. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is if A'ja Wilson's her matchup, she has to do a better job of guarding A'ja Wilson, because this comment here says if AT guards Jackie, A'ja might average 40. If A'ja doesn't miss some easy looks that she normally hits, she could be averaging 40 right now with Alyssa Thomas on her. So like it's not really now to this point. That's why I said earlier why it's such a big risk reward factor with maybe having AT pick up Jackie Young more in that matchup is now you're putting Asia in even more of an advantageous situation. But
Yeah.
what 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 Alyssa Thomas like has in strength abundantly in horizontal size, she lacks in vertical size. I'm 6'2". A'ja Wilson 6'3", 6'4". She's taller than me. She's taller than Martin, or maybe Martin's. She's taller than Alyssa Thomas. It's like, yes, Alyssa Thomas is physical. Yes, Alyssa Thomas is a bully, so to speak. But Alyssa Thomas isn't. She's not Aaliyah Boston, bro.
Well,
Like,
she's
she's
not.
better than Aaliyah Boston, but size-wise, like, that matters. So it's
No,
not
and
just like
think about that, bro. Isn't that crazy that for her team, she kind of is the Aaliyah Boston. She's the
yeah,
most physical presence on her team. Satu as well, but like AT literally has the brand of bully ball.
yeah,
So that's what I'm talking about with the fact that they play small, and the Alyssa Thomas thing is a real conundrum because
yeah,
she's your best point guard, but she's also your what I just said. She's your enforcer. She's your best matchup for the strongest inside player, but she can't do all of that. She just can't. So, I mean, I'm not preaching a she needs more help thing. I'm just, I can't keep talking while I'm reading. Might have to put Alyssa at the 5 and start the Sammy from the bench. Maybe starting Sammy could get her going earlier. Takes the center out. That's not a threat. And then Phoenix will be faster and better offensively. Well, I mean, I don't think they need more speed and small. I think they need to try to go bigger. I think Kalani Brown might need some more
where's
minutes
Natasha Mack at, bro?
because Vegas isn't shy about going with two bigs. They've
Yeah,
gone with Asia and Megan. They've gone with Asia and Liz. Like they're not matching up to Phoenix. They're sticking with some big lineups. And that's where, so to all of these last few points, that's where I think Nate Tibbetts needs to experiment with some kind of matchup zone here. That might allow AT to roam where she can end up being on Jackie and on Asia in the same possession. The answer to
sure.
that is go zone, use a zone where she can be the middle roamer. Like you can cook that up in a defensive scheme in a zone where you can try to cover more ground that way. I mean, they're just losing these matchups. They're getting cooked. Like I think they have to try a zone here. But I'll also say what you're talking about and what we're talking about here with Alyssa Thomas, I've spoke on it a little earlier. And this really is what makes Asia special. This is a way to praise Asia because again, Alyssa Thomas with the turnovers you talked about and her swiping the ball, we saw Chelsea Gray swipe it from her 3 times
3
in a
times.
row on the same possession. And that's exactly that possession is a microcosm of what I'm talking about when it comes to AT in this series. She's got guards like Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, swiping, banging, strong, like we'll play with you. And then her main matchup is Asia. AT has a lot of work to do in these matchups. She can't bully these people like she bullied, nothing against these players, but she bullied Nafisa. She bullied her. She did in that series. She out-toughed her. She was more physical. I mean, she wore her down, honestly. That's what happened in that series. She was able to do that with Stewie as well. She like so and it's crazy. It's unfortunate and crazy, but both of them got hurt. Stewie got hurt in that first series. Fee got hurt in the last series. AT just been banging people up each series. Now she's up against Asia and the Aces, and it's like, oh, I can't like move them the way I've been moving people. There are times when it's there and she finds her spots, and there are moments, but just straight up, it's not that. So uh defensively, I just think she needs a lot of help. I think they need to try different things. And then offensively, she really needs her teammates. Sammy Whitcomb has to do something. They need her playing the way she was playing against Minnesota. That playing off of AT like that is their best bet. And I don't see as much like of the action with their backdoor cutting. I mean, I don't see like I hadn't
We
seen
saw
a
a lot
lot
more of
of
that
that
in game
motion
one than we did in game two. Like in
for
game
sure.
one, that's what kept them in the game was Ka going on a backdoor cut, or you saw Akoa Makani or even Satu do it a couple of times. Didn't see that much in game two. They gotta like you said, there are it's more than just one thing on both sides of the ball for them right now.
Yeah, they have They have multiple problems. They have multiple problems.